Hey there, my name is Matthias. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing something a little bit differently today. I don't normally do video essays on this channel. I'm a vlogger primarily, and I also believe that there's a plethora of video essayists out there that are doing a really good job with things of that nature. I really have anything to add as far as what's going on. Now I should clarify that even though I am doing a video essay today, I don't consider myself much of a critic or a film theorist or even that much of a cinephile. I do love movies, but I don't really deep dive into them that much. I love characters, I love stories, I love the art of storytelling, but analyzing things, breaking them down, stuff like that is not really my forte. It's not really where my mind goes. But I did see Captain Marvel a few weeks ago, and there was something that I really wanted to talk about. So, this is going to be a video essay about Captain Marvel, or what I'm going to call my lingering obsession with what I believe is a missed opportunity with Captain Marvel. Spoilers. In Grand Marvel tradition, there's a mid-credit sequence at the end of Captain Marvel. It's a scene we are to believe that takes place during the next film, Avengers Endgame. In that scene, the remaining Avengers on Earth, still reeling from the events of the Thanos snap at the end of Infinity War, we find have discovered Nick Fury's pager. Yes, that pager from that sequence. You know what I'm talking about. Well, they've hooked it up to a power supply and kept the signal alive for who knows how long. The scene begins as they learn the signal has stopped. The pager is off, though there's no indication as to why. The Avengers want to know what was so important to Fury. They want to know who he was trying to reach, and they want to get the signal working again. Natasha Romanoff says as much before turning around to find herself face to face with Carol Danvers. Captain Marvel has arrived. No one saw or heard her come in, no one knows who she is, everyone is too stunned to say anything, and she only has one question. Where's Fury? Let's back up for a second. Captain Marvel is a movie about Vers, a Kree warrior with no memory beyond the past 6 years of her life. Through a series of marvelous events, she finds herself crash-landed on Earth, along with a handful of Skrull warriors, whom she attempts to stop from completing their mission. Turns out, the Skrulls' search for a woman named Wendy Lawson becomes Vers' concurrent search for the truth of her past. She discovers her name, who she was, her connection with Lawson, how she got her powers, and that the Kree/Skrull war is not all that she believed. Also, the Tesseract is involved, and there's a cat named Goose, which is actually a Flurkin. Basically, it's an origin story. The twist on the familiar formula is that this movie also serves as an origin story for Nick Fury. When we first meet Fury, he has more eyes than we normally see him with, and he's missing the persona that we usually associate with the black trench-coated figure. We knew even before the movie was released that we would be introduced to a younger, greener Nick Fury. Thanks to interviews with Sam Jackson himself, we also knew that we would be encountering Fury in a jaded state. The Strategic Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division hasn't had much to do for several years, and Fury, a former spy and soldier, is stuck behind a desk. Captain Marvel, the film and the eventual hero, is what opens up Fury's world as he learns more about new forces that could threaten our existence. When he meets Vers, he sees in her something of a kindred spirit, someone who plays by their own rules but doesn't compromise morally. As he says himself in the film,
I know a renegade soldier when I see one.
Understandably, distrust is introduced into their relationship upon inception. A war between the Kree and the Skrulls? Aliens that can take whatever shape they choose? Kinetic powers that can blow up a jukebox? Fury isn't so much skeptical as he is fascinated, but that doesn't mean he can trust anything Vers is telling him. Trust is what this movie wants to be about, ultimately. I think. There are other themes, like not having to prove yourself to anyone, for one, or maybe how to keep getting back up again when you make stupid decisions that result in the failure and hurting yourself. Luckily, Vers' maverick spirit doesn't end up hurting someone else. Okay, so that's not completely fair. I know that it's really about a woman having to hold her own in a man's world, but in either case, these themes aren't hammered home quite as needed. On the contrary, trust does have multiple times to shine. Here's a laundry list of spoilery items from the film where trust plays a part. 1. Vers learned that her mentor, Jan Rog, has lied to her the past 6 years about, well, a ton of things. 2. The Kree, as it turns out, aren't that noble of a race. 3. Talos doesn't turn out to be a villain, but one of the more sympathetic heroes of the Skrull race. 4. Fury learns to trust Vers over the course of the movie, eventually putting his faith in her and, ultimately, S.H.I.E.L.D. and the rest of the Avengers. 5. Vers, whom I'll just stop being cheeky and begin referring to her as Carol Danvers, eventually trusts Fury enough to give him a device that can call her back anywhere she is at any time he wants. It should be noted that this is not given to Maria Rambeau, whom she has a much deeper friendship with and is entrusted to someone she barely met a day ago. And it's these final 2 moments that I want to focus on because even though I think the theme of trust permeates itself throughout the movie, I don't believe the writers or directors do a very good job of letting us feel it. It mostly, like most of the other themes of the movie, gets glossed over by the Marvel sheen of entertainment and humor. But there's a fascinating character moment where I felt like I could see the strings being manipulated, and frankly, it got me excited. Shortly after Fury tracks Carol Danvers down at an old bar she used to frequent, he convinces her to come with him to some secret base, where the files for Project Such and Such are located, which might hold the answers she's looking for. It's a MacGuffin mission. You get the idea. Before the drive, they reveal secrets about themselves, things only they would know in case either of them get impersonated by a Skrull. During the drive, you start learning more about one another, and you begin to see a budding friendship between the two. This is where that kindred spirit thing starts to crop up. And you might be remiss, like me, to believe that this is what the film is really going to be about. It's at the end of the sequence, when they arrive at this base in the desert, that Carol Danvers learns Fury's full name, as it's printed on his identification. Nicholas Joseph Fury? She asks.
Everybody calls me Fury.
What does your mom call you?
Just Fury.
But why? Is a question I ask myself. Is this some front? A man who wants to be known by a particular persona? Is this image projection? Or is this a trust thing? The way certain people will not allow you to call them by any other name unless you two are close to each other? Really good friends, siblings, or something similar? This is where my mind goes during movies. I'm overthinking some invisible string because I love character moments like these. And it's here that I begin to suspect that by the end of this film, we will hear Carol refer to Fury as Nick because of everything they'll have been through together, and because of the earned trust that they'll ultimately give to one another. Better yet, what if she asks about Nick not in this film, but in the next one due out this summer, Endgame? I mean, wouldn't that be a way to show how close they've become? A nod to the audience, to the Avengers themselves, that this is someone that Fury truly trusts above everyone else? Unfortunately, my speculation is undercut almost immediately when it turns out that this name game was just a simple setup for a moment that happens only 2 scenes later, when Talos, impersonating a major S.H.I.E.L.D. director, calls Fury Nick on the elevator. He and we are tipped off that this is a Skrull in disguise. That's it. That's what this whole back and forth about his name was about. A setup I recognized, but a disappointing payoff. I felt cheated, but I still held out hope that Carol would eventually come back by the end of the movie with a cheeky Nick line, even as a joke. Nope, that doesn't happen either. Turns out though, the entire film stops being about Fury and Carol's friendship almost immediately after it started to explore it. After this whole Nick payoff, they seem to fully trust each other. Sure, Carol confiscates Fury's pager because he essentially betrayed her by calling S.H.I.E.L.D. when she wasn't looking, but for the rest of the film, she doesn't so much as second guess any of his intentions. They move on and find her old friend Maria and her daughter, and eventually help the Skrulls escape the Kree while successfully keeping the Tesseract out of the wrong hands. All the while, Fury is there, sometimes playing with a cat. There's no culmination of trust either, even when you think Carol should be dealing with a crisis of identity, not knowing who she can trust because a lot of things she believed the past 6 years was a lie. I mean, 6 years is a long time, even if it's not her entire life. I mean, there's no moment of, "you can trust me," from any of her new or old friends. Maybe that would have been cheesy and on the nose, but you think that a person who's had to rely on herself for most of her life with only one true friend would have some sort of flaw. Like not being able to trust or feeling the need to do everything all on her own all the time. You think this film would have something to say about friendship, trust, or loneliness. However, the writers seem genuinely disinterested in any of that. Instead, this is a movie about a strong female superhero who has nothing to prove to anyone and shouldn't ever have to keep her emotions in check just because she's trying to work in a male-dominated field. I don't say this facetiously. While I applaud these moments and this message, it just doesn't really tell much about Carol Danvers as a character. Her struggles are actually her strength. She never seems to doubt herself all that much. I mean, maybe she does? I don't know. Does she? Overall, she just accepts new information without hesitation and just keeps on being badass. So there's no trust theme or overall message about friendship. I guess it's about believing in yourself, which is a good message. I liked the movie enough. It had a lot of entertaining moments. Brie Larson is an amazing Captain Marvel, and the character is exciting. I especially love the Skrulls twist, and I can't wait to see what they do with Ben Mendelsohn and the rest of them as the MCU moves forward. Still, it's the missing themes, or those only touched on very briefly, that I feel like was a missed opportunity. Even at the end, when Carol hands back the pager to Fury, newly modified, like we saw in Infinity War, you'd think it'd be this moment where Carol is admitting that she can trust him again. And maybe she'll throw in a coy Nick that he let slide because, after all, he trusts her enough to allow her to do that. But, nah, it's just a setup for the next movie. Which brings us back to that mid-credit sequence and what I believe is the biggest missed opportunity in all of Captain Marvel. When Carol Danvers suddenly appears behind Black Widow and everyone is stunned and surprised, how great would it have been for her to say, "Where's Nick?" instead of Fury, cluing us in towards a bond that only they've been able to share throughout the course of the entire MCU. Imagine a moment that acknowledges that Captain Marvel was all about trust, friendship, and never having to be alone in the universe, and was solidified by creating a callback to what could have been a throwaway line that everyone forgot about when Fury says, "Nobody calls me Nick." Not even your closest friends? Carol asks. Well, Fury begins the answer. Maybe only those I really, truly trust. It was right there. Hey there, thanks for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Again, this is not a typical thing that I do on my YouTube channel, and honestly, I wasn't sure that I was going to do more video essays or that I was going to continue on with a series of sorts. But that said, I have actually started writing the next video in the series. It's actually a video that I've been wanting to do for a while. I actually started it probably about a year ago and never finished it, and because I didn't have a structure to go off of or an approach or a point of view that I wanted to take with these kind of videos, I wasn't sure what to do with it. But now I feel like I've started coming up with more ideas, and I think that I might continue doing a few more of these in the future. I am proud of this one, but this one was definitely an experiment. It was just to see if I could do it. So it's not quite as polished as it should be. I wish I had a few more clips to use, but I was limited to what was on the internet and the trailers, things like that. So at the very least, I hope that the next ones will have a little bit more polish, and I hope that I can hone in on my style as we continue on with these things. So I appreciate your patience in letting me experiment a little bit and to try a few different things. If you did enjoy it, or if you have any comments or suggestions or anything, feel free to leave a comment below. I look forward to any sort of feedback. I mean, any feedback, whether it's about how I did the video or about Captain Marvel itself. Did you enjoy the movie? I just want to know. At the very least, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. I look forward to maybe exploring this new chapter in content creation as we move forward in the future. Again, thanks for watching. Glad you stopped by, and I'll see you on the next one.